We start off by seeing the president's daughter. She had gone out for a trip and loved adventure. Because of this, she took a huge robot pole with her and went out to the north. She stood alone there and said, "I need to talk to my father right now." The president's daughter's bodyguard was always nearby, and they were the first ones called. Carmen and Junie were called, and people wondered if they could save the president's daughter. Because of this, 2 more agents were called to join the mission. They had to try to save the president's daughter while Carmen was busy with her own task, and they were doing their best to save the situation. At that moment, Junie, somehow, managed to convince the president's daughter to come down. Meanwhile, Carmen found out that things weren't as good as they seemed. As much as they tried to be perfect, the credit went to Carrie because he had saved a transformer that the president's daughter had stolen. Carmen Jr. and the team told their fans, including Gregory and Ingrid, that they were the first to invent the spider technology and were the first ones from this batch to succeed. Then, it was revealed that Junie had a very small gadget that always helped him, and he was often seen with it. It helped him during one event where a spy was promoted and made a director. At this event, both Carmen and Junie were spoiled by the recordings. Junie asked for permission from the director to dance with Carmen. Just as they were about to begin, the president arrived, and the shoot was about to begin, but then a major slideshow was hacked, which led to the name announcement being delayed. The director had passed away, and this left the family devastated. The president showed a transformer in his hand and said it was a good thing it didn't fall into the wrong hands. Later, we see that the party's details were changed because the behavior of some guests seemed different. They had added something to the drinks, which caused the guests to pass out. Now, it was time for the spy kids to shine. Junie and Carmen fought off the attackers in a very brutal way. Finally, Junie had successfully transferred the object. However, Jerry was still chasing the transporter, and in the chaos of their fight, the waiters also got involved. They go into the shape, and when everyone gets there, Jerry blames everything on Junie, saying that because of his ignorance, the transformation crown got stolen. Because of this, Junie gets kicked out. Meanwhile, the new director, who was now in charge, was watching Junie. We see that Junie was very troubled by the incident from last night and had missed the appointment. He felt he had to do something, so he hacked into the network. On the other side, Junie reaches his small hideout to figure out what new mission Jerry and the team might have. Carmen and Junie find out that Barrier Valley is sending someone to a high-risk area, which had never been sent before. No one had returned from there, and it was unclear what had happened. Junie, once again, hacks into the system and manages to send Jerry to another mission, while changing the mission details and putting both his and Carmen's names instead. We see Carmen and Junie sitting in the office, which was now highly advanced. All the credit for this went to their hard work. Carmen and Junie got some cool new gadgets and were told that these would help them in any situation. They got ready to complete their mission, heading towards the Lost Island. This island was extremely dangerous. Meanwhile, Barrier Valley, whose machine had been changed, arrived with new gadgets. Junie and Carmen, in their submersibles, set off on the journey. In the last movie, they had seen some strange fruit, and Carmen tried to call them to ask if they could get in touch with Minion, who had been part of the mission before. Jasmine explained that before going to this island, all connections would be cut off, and no one who had gone there had returned. This place had some strange energy that could disable all electronic devices. On the other side, Junie sends a message to the president's daughter, and as predicted, all the electronic devices are disabled. The car and the support system for Carmen and Junie stop functioning, and they realize they need to find a way out. They stand outside, thinking about how they would go this far. Suddenly, a huge dragon appears and tries to eat them, but fails. Meanwhile, at Barrier Valley, they reach the desert where they encounter camels. They realize that their mission had been changed. Back in the headquarters, we see Ingrid discussing the ingredients, and Gregorio says that he doesn't particularly like the work, even though he always speaks to them politely. Eventually, the person who had taken over as the director explains that the kids' mission was to investigate how the electronic devices in the area were being affected. He tells Gregorio that they couldn't find a connection to the children, who were also cut off from communication. In the next scene, Ingrid's parents are met, and they say that they don't have time to meet right now. They have to save their children first, and after that, they'll meet with everyone. People watch as Carmen and Junie haven't been eaten yet, and they've reached the edge. They try using their gadgets, but nothing seems to work. On the other hand, it's revealed that the transmitter was stolen. Meanwhile, Carmen heads out on her mission to find the device that prevents Silent from being tracked. At the same time, the reality of their situation dawns on them. They realize that their connections have been cut off, and they also find themselves in a difficult situation. When they reach the shore, they think that perhaps the device has already reached its destination. Meanwhile, Don and Junie face numerous huge animals that appear to be trying to attack them. However, they fall into a volcano, and although Carmen tries to save them, the rope breaks, and they continue to fall for hours. Eventually, they land in a place, and as the boiling pot shuts down, they meet a great scientist named Romero. Carmen and Junie ask him what he's doing here and how long he's been hanging in this place. Romero tells them he had developed a technique to keep animals away, and after so many years, he finally saw humans. He explains that he was working on an invention that would make animals miniature, and he successfully changed their DNA. However, one day, when he mixed different liquids, he created a dangerous substance that grew uncontrollably. Eventually, the animals he had turned into miniatures grew far too big, and they turned on him, nearly killing him. He admits that he has never left this place since. Junie suggests that perhaps he should leave this place, as it's not likely that the animals will always want to eat him. Carmen then says they might be able to figure out where the animals are now. Romero opens a chamber where miniature mixed-breed animals start emerging, moving toward their positions. The huge animals nearby also reveal their presence. Carmen and Junie realize that Barrier Valley has also arrived and is struggling against these huge animals. Carmen and Junie rush to save them, and after rescuing them, they take them to Romero's secret house. However, Romero had stolen one of the books, and Jerry mocks them, saying no one was interested in their actions. Meanwhile, Ingrid tries to track her children by using the transmitter, and we learn that their connection has been severed. Jerry comments that he can handle everything, but just as this happens, Carmen and Junie manage to break the tracker, which have been stuck in their mouths like teeth. The government states that since they've arrived, their parents will surely come to save them, and they don't want them to be the ones risking their lives. Later, Carmen breaks the connection, and with this, Ingrid's tracking system also fails. The parents and grandparents get extremely worried. Grandfather suggests that they might try to find Junie by using a locket he had given to Carmen, as she might be wearing it. The Don and Junie don't make it out, but just then, they fall into the valley, where they encounter a huge creature. Meanwhile, Jerry thinks he might be able to control the channel, and Don and Junie notice that this place is full of tractors. Jerry then tells his brother not to touch anything, but the brother doesn't listen and steals a precious necklace. Jerry suggests they should change their path since they've been going in circles. But just then, Carmen realizes that the thing she stole is leading them to danger. Skeletons are after them, and she fights them off. The scene progresses with more struggles, and they discover a pigmented nest, as they had initially thought. Meanwhile, Junie saves himself and reaches a pyramid, where he encounters a spider monkey, forming an unlikely friendship. On the other side, Jerry faces a mixed snake. The spider monkey was towards Carmen, and after that, a great bond formed between them. Carmen and Junie try to escape, but Romero also thinks it's time to leave the place. The spider monkey does everything to save Junie, but still, the situation remains dire. Now, Carmen and Junie have finally reached the place, but this time, Carmen helps her brother Junie. However, she doesn't help Jerry and tells him that he is not a good person. Just when they're about to get their transfers, the villain arrives with his entire team. Carmen and Junie read all the instructions and try to remove the transmission, but the villain captures them. He threatens to kill them if they don't comply. After that, the Valley team helps the father, and they leave with the transporter. The villain realizes that the transporter isn't where it should be, and they decide to use their tests. Meanwhile, Junie arrives and tries to take the transporter. On the other hand, we see that Romero is surrounded by big animals, but these animals don't harm him. In fact, they befriend him. Carmen and Junie use their gadgets to set up a tent, and soon they find out that the entire family has arrived to rescue them. However, a fight breaks out between Jonathan and others as they try to grab the transporter. They fight back in a humorous way, but after the altercation, they realize that the transporter doesn't work. The villain hands over the transporter to his daughter and says to program it, but it turns out that it wasn't programmed properly. As a result, it malfunctions and the connections are lost everywhere. In a small translation mishap, the villain's plans fail. Meanwhile, the president and his daughter arrive and remove the director from his position, and Liberty gets temporarily terminated. They say, "You saved our lives." Carmen responds, "You all are my family." Everyone bids farewell to Romero, and after that, the scientist gives Junie a miniature animal, a spider monkey. With this, the movie ends on a high note. The movie poster shows Pankaj Mishra's name, and there's a scene with Junie and Carmen where they enjoy some cool gadgets, including a belt for dancing and a guitar for playing music. However, at the end, it's revealed that the battery was missing. Finally, Junie comes into the picture again, trying to solve things with Romero. And with that, the movie ends. We'll meet again in the next part of this exciting journey. Until then, take care and stay tuned for more.